Complete with Daisy Dukes. This is the Slingin Dirt presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com.
You had me at Daisy Dukes.
You realize how gay that sounds?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. You and your sausage.
The who let the I was going to say, the Daisy Dukes or who let the dogs out?
Well, I'm wearing the Daisy Dukes, and I guess you're enjoying it.
That's a bad mental image, Dan.
You know what? It's
Taylor
a hot day. It's a hot day. I put on my Daisy Dukes.
Tell you what,
I got the who let the dogs go. Listen, we got a special guy at studio tonight.
The big dog himself.
Dennis Cook, driver the number 45, B-Mod for Home Pride Motorsports out at Shelby County Speedway and I-80 Speedway, leading in the point series at I-80 as of Thursday night. And, well, you guys don't race for a couple of weeks out there, do you?
Oh, we're racing Friday night.
Are you racing Friday night? I thought they moved that race.
No, that's the July 4th race.
Okay. So you'll be racing July 4th. Okay. So you will be racing tomorrow night. But still a points leader. You've got an 8-point lead over Blaine Peterson out of Essex and a 28-point lead over Jared Weston out of Red Oak. And then over Shelby County Speedway, trailing Cody Olson in 777 by just 7 points. Wow, how about that? 4 7s. I didn't even screw that up.
No.
I'm kind of proud of myself. But you got plenty of time to catch him out there at Shelby County Speedway. Because if anything anything can happen at these tracks. And when it comes down to the summer, which we're getting into the middle of the summer, I swear to God, the rain's going to go away.
At some point,
and
some
year. We're going to get into the heat of the summer, and then it's really going to test people's equipment. And luckily, you've got financial backing this year to be able to have nice equipment. Is that a much nicer thing to have this year, or is that something you actually had last year, too?
Well, it's new to me this year. I had several small sponsors last year, but Home Pride Motorsports came on board, Home Pride Roofing, and Luke Cochran. He's been very instrumental in me doing well this year, supplying me with the equipment I need, and there's also a lot of support that he's given me. Go win, go win, go win.
Mental support, just kind of a cheerleader in your section, and he is very good about that. He is. Does it help that he's a former racer too?
Oh, yeah. I've known Luke since 1985, roughly. And
I would have thought much earlier than that.
No. I started racing in 84.
Really?
You're not as old as I thought you are then.
So you started racing about 24?
Yep. I was 23 the first time I raced, and I turned 24 the first year.
What'd you race?
I had they were Broncos at that time at Sunset Speedway.
I remember watching those. That's back when so did you get to race against John Kinney Jr. and John Kinney Sr. at the same time when they were racing each other? Sugar Bear.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Porky, Scott Carlson.
Oh, yeah. That's where I met Scott in 1984.
Back in 84, I don't think Scott was really hauling the bacon.
No, he wasn't. He was a skinny, blonde-headed kid that I met him because he had trouble with his car one night, and I went and helped him work on it. That's how we met.
Did you get out to the walk down Sunset Lane?
I did. I enjoyed myself immensely.
That was pretty fun. A little bit of a teaser. Actually, Buddy doesn't. I don't even think Buddy knows about this yet. I meant to tell you before the pregame, before getting ready to do the show, but we've got another event like that in the makings. Did you ever race at Playland Speedway? I
did not. I went and watched a lot when I was a kid. My dad used to take me there, but that was kind of before my time.
Cool. Well, listen. On hopefully on Slingin Dirt, if Bud's okay with it, we'll talk about it a little bit once everything gets
this is
firmed
news
up.
to me.
Once everything gets firmed up, it's a very, very premature idea right now, but we're working early on it. So, but yeah, you were out of Sunset Speedway, and then so you worked with Luke. Did you guys race together or race separate classes?
No, we raced in the same class. He actually drove a car for somebody at that time, and that's where I met him. I actually met him. Also, his dad, Randy Sterner, ran RC Speed in Blair, and I used to buy parts from him, and he worked on one of my cars one time when I got in a wreck and fixed it, and I'd met Luke over there also.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know Randy was his dad.
Randy Sterner is Luke Cochran's stepdad.
Oh, it's been years since I've met Randy, but I remember talking to him. He's a real nice guy.
Yeah, he was at the races once already this year out to I-80, and I got to chit-chat with him, and it was cool seeing him again.
Yep.
Those days down at Sunset Speedway and racing all throughout the area, did you ever have an incident with Luke that when he comes on board this year, you guys kind of had to, you reminisced about Because I know you racers have long memories when it comes to costing me a win.
Well, we discussed something that happened, but it wasn't it wasn't between us.
Okay.
It was something I seen happen, and Luke was a young man at that time and did not own Home Pride, and I always describe him as, when I first met him, he was a knucklehead and didn't have two nickels to rub together. And
I love that term. Knucklehead.
Him and I have laughed about it. I mean, we've been good friends over the years, and for him to come on board this year was huge for me.
And he's such a nice guy, and he's so enthusiastic. I remember him telling me several times, just off the record, and I don't think I'm violating any trust by me telling him this, but he said, Dan, I don't think I could ever have this much fun sponsoring a group of guys. But he goes, I'm out every weekend at the races, be it with Jack, be it with Jesse, or with Dennis, and I'm just having the most fun watching these guys win and helping them out and doing whatever I can. He goes, I'm just having a ball.
Well, I think you're right. There's less pressure for Luke because he's not actually trying to race a car or get one ready to go. He can load up and go to the races and enjoy himself.
Yeah.
And of course, he's been racing that Gottra car and won with it over at Harlan already. And we actually went down and helped him get it ready the day that he raced it. And that was kind of enjoyable for us also.
I don't mean to pull the veil back, but that Gotcha, I've seen it race a couple of times. I mean, is the winner predetermined, or are they just kind of whoever's? I mean, it's not because logic would tell you they're not full on racing. Because if I owned a car that looked like that, I'd just hang out in the back.
Oh, I beg to differ with you when it comes to Luke Cochran and
they don't call him the outlaw
and
for nothing.
Is Bill Rick still racing his Gotcha?
Bill Rick is one of the ones that him and Luke go around, and Luke told me this year that the fire is definitely not gone out of Mr. Rick. So, those guys put on a great show over there at Harlan. It was cool to watch.
That was a good question, Dan, because when I raced Harlan over there, I'd watch the Gotcha Association come over, and you're right, those are like museum piece quality cars.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah, and you're like, you guys are seriously out here slinging mud and possibly, going to have damage to them. And
have you seen Brian Blessington's car? He drives the 92B at at Denison and Harlan.
It's an old Dodge.
It's an old Mopar.
Yes.
And the first several weeks, I mean, that thing looked pristine. I mean, there wasn't a dent, there wasn't a scratch on it whatsoever. And I remember he raced it like it was just destroyed. He didn't care. And I remember several times sitting in the grandstands watching him, thinking, oh God, this is going to be the night he's going to just destroy that beautiful looking Mopar. But it's still held together very well. I think we're 6 weeks into the season.
They're race car drivers. They're in a race car. They're racing.
Yeah.
Race cars can be repaired, even if they're old race cars.
I guess I'm very fixated on the looks of a vehicle. It irks me very much to have dirt on my truck or a smudge on my truck. I think that's where the side of me that doesn't hop into a race car is what stops me, is because if I had that nice of a looking car, I would be freaking out and just sitting in the back and racing and hoping I could get finished good because I was the only one that didn't wreck out.
Funny thing about that, Dan, every year, Dennis, you and I in the wintertime, at some point you're going to come by my shop, or I'm going to come by your shop just to shoot the bull a little bit. And the last 2 or 3 years, every year I've noticed this with you. You'll look at my cars and you'll sit there rubbing your Fu Manchu, your handlebar mustache, and you're going to be like, bud, you got good-looking cars every year. But if you'd spend more time on making them faster than making them look good, you'd be all right.
Well, is there truth to that?
He doesn't even have to answer. I know the truth to that.
We've had this conversation way too many times.
Way too many times.
I get accused of not washing my car enough. People growl at me. I have fans that, why don't you wash the car? That don't make it any faster in my head. There's probably a little bit to them being slick, racing on a half-mile track or bigger, but racing half-mile or smaller, I don't think the slickness of them cars has a whole lot to do with it.
Yeah, I always like a nice clean car. I don't like getting under a car and having mud fall on me. I mean, look at these pretty palm olive hands of mine. I like to keep them that way when I'm working on the car.
Very manicured hands.
Yeah, something close to that. One thing I've noticed, 2013, 2014, your sons come on board. it's not that he was never on board, but he's come on board more so. He's driving a hobby stock now, doing really good. You guys got the hobby or mod sitting there at your house there in Council Bluffs. How much funner or how much more fun have you had this year racing with your son, getting to help him and him helping you?
Well, I've had a lot of fun with my boys helping me the last 2 years, and it's way cool. And it's twice as much work with him having his own car because I end up helping him with it a little bit here and there. And, he reciprocates helping me with mine too. But we kind of do our own thing for the most part unless we need manpower and there's nobody else around. I've kind of done that with him, teaching him what racing's about. Here, it's your baby. You got to get it ready to go. You got to go.
Yep. He's actually, I think one night he was leading the feature or he finished second or third in a heat race. Or did he win a feature? Because there's one night you won and he got second or he made tech or something like that. And I was like, Dennis has got to be just beaming proud that night.
Yeah, I think he finished third in the feature that night. And the first thing he said when I came in, because I won that night, was, "You just had to show me up, didn't you?" He actually thought he was going to end up with a better finish than Dad. And but he was still proud of me on the backside of that anyway. But he thought he missed his shining moment.
So do you think there's going to be a long future there with Josh racing?
Well, I like to hope so. That's all on him. I can't do it for him. When at some point I've got another son that's entertained the idea of racing also. They get deep enough into it, Dad will probably start helping them and even financially help them once they prove to me that that's what they're going to do and what they want to do. My dad never gave it to me. Not that my dad didn't help me financially, but he never gave it to me. I had to work hard for it to get where I'm at with it. And I want them boys to learn it, to do it the same way.
Yeah, if you want it bad enough, you got to go out and work for it, to sort of speak.
Yes.
With today's cars, with but with Harlan and I-80, and some of this you'll be able to hear on the front stretch Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. We had asked you this question earlier when we recorded the show. With today's kids, a lot of people are saying, well, Dennis, you're 50-some years old. Why aren't you in an A model? Why aren't you in a late model? Why are you down here running with these kids? And being a fellow competitor of yours, it's kind of, in my opinion, insulting because even though, yes, there are, some 16, 17-year-old kids and you're in your 50s, these are not beginner cars. This is not something you just go buy out of a showroom, go jump in and drive right off. What do you say to the critics of that?
Well, it was designed to be an entry-level class to get you into an A-mod. Well, there's still dollars that keep you out of A-mods. Granted, it's gotten easier with the installation of the crate motor into their program, but it's still a $2,000 or $2,500 more engine program to run the A-mod. Granted, the A-mods pay better. I mean, I've considered that too. One thing this year that I wouldn't be having the assistance I'm getting from Home Pride if I was running an A-mod because he's already sponsoring Jesse Sobbing in the A-mod.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
So it's been beneficial to me to be where I'm at for multiple reasons.
Dennis, let's change subjects here a little bit. Something that I've been very curious about. I've done a little research. How long does it take you to grow that mustache? Luke and I were taking bets that you could shave at 8 o'clock in the morning and have a Fu Manchu chew within 48 hours.
Well, I don't know if it grows quite that fast or not, but I pretty much had it my whole life.
You shaved it off for a little while there, and you fooled me. You had it. I think you were fully shaved in the pits. I saw you somewhere, and I double looked at you and you go, you didn't recognize me, did you?
You must have been hanging around with Buddy Ray because I have not shaved the mustache off. I had a beard.
Yeah,
you had a beard.
That must have been it. You shaved the beard off and went with the handlebars.
I mean, I kind of looked like Grizzly Adams the first night at the racetrack.
You're downright scary looking with that beard. I don't know if I'd want to talk to you or run from you, and God forbid if I wanted to talk to you, I better walk up with a big gun. Because you look intimidating with that beard. I can just imagine driving by you in the feature, and I'm looking over, and I got this beard sticking out from underneath the helmet, beating you in the visor. And then you take the visor off and tech, and I'm like, oh, this guy's going to shoot me.
I've always kind of regulated my shaving around racing season. Usually before I go race the first time, I shave it off. When I'm done in the fall, that's when I grow a beard.
You ever thought about just keeping the beard? Fear the beard.
Oh, it's too hot in the summertime.
That'd be true. Yeah.
Are you a superstitious man?
Nope.
Not at all?
Not at all.
No traditions before you go racing? No chicken on race night?
No. In fact, a week ago, I had a couple shocks repaired from Dylan Smith, and I went to pay him. I tried to give him $50 bills. He wouldn't take them. I'm like, what? You're stupid. You got to be kidding me.
There's a superstition about $50 bills?
Yep. On Friday the 13th.
I've never heard about that.
Full moon, Friday the 13th, and Dylan would not take them $50 bills. And I'd never heard that before either. And Dylan also told me, he says, if a black cat would have crossed in front of me, he said I'd have turned and went around the other way. And lo and behold, Dylan did not have a very good night. He should have took he should have took the $50 bills and got the bad luck out of the way.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, tell us how your season is going at I-80 in Shelby County this year.
Well, we're leading the points at I-80 and second the points at Harlan, and I've won 2 features at both racetracks. The car's been good. I believe I should have had a couple more wins, but, circumstances and mistakes on my own part have cost me the extra wins. But it's been a good year. It's been fun. To be honest with everybody, I've won more races this early in the year than I ever have. So I'm looking at having a really good year in my book. So,
well, give me one thing. Give me one good thing, one bad thing about each track with your driving. What's one thing that you can prove on at I-80, and give me one bad thing at I-80, and then vice versa over at Harlan.
Well, I don't know. I like racing at I-80 better than I do Harlan. I don't know what it is about the racetrack, but I enjoy racing there. I've always just had good luck getting around I-80. And Harlan, I've struggled a little bit more. The wins are not that much different from either racetrack over the years. But the biggest thing, I think, is I-80 tends to be dry, slick, and not have the moisture that Harlan has most of the time. And I like dry, slick racetracks growing up racing on Sunset Speedway.
If next year, Friday, let's look at 2015. I know it's only halfway through 2015 and it's a long ways away. But with the rumors that Harlan could be, they're finishing up their contract this year with the association. If they don't race next year on Saturday nights, have you looked ahead to see maybe where the Cooker chassis might be running on Saturday nights, or would you just call I-80 it for the year at that point?
Well, I don't know. I haven't even entertained the idea of that, Bud. So I don't really have any answer for you there because I haven't thought about it.
The one thing, we talked about it earlier. You've always made fun of me, And I, because of you and Scotty going, well, you guys got these really good looking cars, but you're always struggling. I was like, well, so I've always termed myself the fastest go nowhere B mod racer. But with that being said, boy, the dog on your car, whose idea was that? And I mean, that thing had to have taken off for you big time. I mean, that was brilliant with your Fu Manchu, your big burly status, and you got that big bulldog on your car. I mean, when you face the dog, good Lord.
Long story, but when I started dating the gal that I'm with now, Lori, people started coming around, and guys like Buddy Ray'd show up at the garage and he'd be like, Dennis this and Dennis that. What's going on? Hey, Dennis, what's going on, Dennis? Blah, 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 blah with the race car. Do you remember the old cartoon with Spike and Chester?
Yep.
The 2 dogs? Well, she kind of dubbed me Spike that day. And since then, that's where that came from. And I just thought the big bulldog was a perfect mascot for my race car.
Perfect match for you.
Because I stole the one you wanted.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, trust me, Yosemite Sam's not working out. Dan's over here speechless.
I'm surprised you didn't get sued over that, frankly. I mean, it's off your car now, isn't it?
No.
Oh,
no.
God. Okay. I'll keep my mouth shut.
It's still on there.
There's something called copyright infringement that I'm pretty sure Disney would get cranky
no
about.
copyright infringement going on there.
None at all.
You know, I was actually thinking about making T-shirts that had Yosemite Sam with a chain around the big bulldog, and I was going to wear it in front of the crowd at I-80 some Friday night in front of Dennis. You know, Yosemite Sam's walking the dog. So.
Yeah, but they are cartoon characters, and you realize what happens on cartoon shows. The dog would be dragging Yosemite Sam.
Yeah, you show up the next week, Yosemite Sam's flapping, bouncing off the ground.
Exactly.
The dog's
Been talking with Dennis Cook, driver of the number 45, Home Pride Motorsports, a B-Mod. I keep getting that screwed up. I'm sorry. B-Mod. You drive a B-Mod. Your buddy drives an A-Mod. Your other buddy drives a sprint car. I shouldn't get it screwed up, but I do. I'm slow. I'm sorry.
Tell you what, this June Jamboree, when they're doing the makeup feature for the Charlie Clark, how possible is it that we could actually have a Home Pride show that weekend with Dover winning the sprints, you winning the B mods, and Jesse winning the A mods? How possible is that?
Oh, it's very possible. I mean, we've all three been winning. That's been one of Luke's goals, is to have all three of us win on the same night. Has not yet happened. Two of us have won on the same night. Different pairs.
A little something, a little extra, you know, maybe from Luke if it's a Home Pride sweep.
Well, that hasn't been thrown at us, but you know, I mean, you never know with Luke. He's a very good motivator.
Well, let me ask you that. Do you need any more motivation to win? I mean, will it actually make you drive harder if Luke says, "Look, I'll put an extra $100 in your pocket if you win, Jesse wins, and Jack all wins in the same night"?
No, not really.
Okay. I kind of, because talking to you for the last 45 minutes as we had been, between the front stretch at Slingin Dirt, I don't see that you need any more motivation to win. You're pretty well motivated as it is.
Exactly, well, and all three of us are. You know, we're out there to win races.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did want to ask you, earlier this year, there was a roofing wars contest out at I-80 between Home Pride and
Pyramid Roofing.
Pyramid Roofing. Well, Pyramid Roofing, if I remember this right, if Flegg beat you in the points, Luke had to give Bill $1,000, and if you beat Bill, Pyramid had to give you the $1,000.
That would be correct.
That would be correct. So I would assume that you've effectively won that challenge.
I would assume so also.
Well, the challenge was ended after the first night, so, and unfortunately it's not going to happen. It's been a fun competition.
I thought it was ended too, but I also thought that Luke had restarted the challenge the second night, and he gave Bill an honest chance to, you know,
the offer was thrown out for Bill to come back. We would restart, scratch that first night, and restart it. And Bill's never returned. That's solely been Bill's decision, and I don't, you know, I'm not going to critique Bill's decision on that one way or the other, but I think he should have come back. It was a fun thing that was going to make the summer fun and interesting for the fans and us. Mm-hmm. We were looking forward to it. So we were all a little disappointed that Bill didn't come back.
So are you actually awarded that then? Are you going to win the $1,000, or was that completely scrapped and taken off the table then?
Well, I hope so, but that's been, you know, that's up to those two. That deal was made between Luke and the owner of Pyramid Racing or Pyramid Roofing, and you know, I would like to think a deal's a deal, and if I'd have dropped out, they'd have probably been wanting their $1,000. So why wouldn't I want my $1,000?
Yeah,
you know, that's
fair enough.
You know,
one thing Dan and I have been asking drivers here on the Slingin Dirt, and even on the front stretch from time to time, and you've really got to see this at Shelby County this year, the massive decrease in car counts. I mean, just Saturday night, we saw 4 hobby stocks. I think it was like 14 or 15 sport mods.
Saturday night was a bad example, though, because there was people that stayed home from the weather, including my own son. He didn't go.
Oh, just because of the weather?
Because of the weather. He had a big enough lead, but over the guy that's behind him in points that it made no difference, and he didn't want his truck getting beat up, and he wanted to be at home where he was.
But even, earlier, I-80's been fairly stable. I mean, you and I race against each other out there every Friday night, and we've had, 18, 20 cars, it seems like every Friday night, give or take one or two. But I remember going to Harlan where there would be 20 or 25 sport mods, and we're seeing this year, prior to last week, I've seen nights where there's 13, 14. What do you attribute the low car count to this year? Not just there, but everywhere, because everybody's down.
I think the economy and gas prices, and probably people having trouble getting decent sponsorship money. That it all boils down to money with stuff like that. I think there's some other things going on with Harlan and some of the racers. They've kind of boycotted it a little bit for whatever reason, and I guess I don't understand that. If they want a place to race, they need to be there and race, and I've had my disagreements with the track officials at Harlan also, but I keep going back, because I enjoy racing. And
if I was a track official, I would not want you disagreeing with me on something, because I'd want to run the other direction.
Well, they have over the years, and Craig Kelly, he used to be one that was scared to death of me when I'd get all spun up and mad at him. So
have you looked in the mirror?
I look at myself every day. I'm just a nice, sweet, clean-cut guy.
How could he look at that pretty face?
Yeah.
Talking with Dennis Cook one more time of Home Pride Motorsports, driver number 45 of the B-Mods. Dennis, is it wise for some of these drivers to boycott Harlan? Is it one of these things that they're thinking short-term, I'm going to stick it to them, but in long-term they're going to regret it because Harlan could close down tomorrow, Adams County, Denison, Crawford County. I mean, any of these tracks, you start hurting the car counts, and it's not going to take long for them to close down. Is this something that's going to hurt them long term?
Well, I think so. You're shooting yourself in the foot by protesting things like that and not going. I do think there's some things that they could stand to work on themselves and improve it, I said to Steve Kazuski at the awards banquet a couple years ago about letting the people come for nothing for a while, get people addicted into the race cars, get them sitting in the stands rooting for Dennis Cook or Buddy Ray or Jared Weston or whoever it is, get them sitting up there rooting for a dog in the fight and let them in. How much money does an empty seat make at a racetrack? So that it's pointless to me to be charging the $10 they're charging and thinking they're making their money at the gate when they could be making it, I believe, in concessions, selling hot dogs and beer and popcorn.
Yeah, and the proof to your argument is every time you see a track do a fan appreciation night, get in for free, it is jam-packed.
People love something for free.
Yeah.
How many times don't you collect something that's given to you?
God knows I do.
I take two of
this
everything
guy is the
free.
biggest mooch in the world. He'll take anything for free. I mean, he'll fill out those forms online for 20 minutes trying to get a free sandwich. And
you got a 7-inch shock I can use, Dennis?
Nope.
I do got some old ones I can give you. But it doesn't make any sense to have empty seats. I mean, them empty seats do not make you any money. Get them there and sell them concessions. Mm-hmm. Sell them souvenirs.
I always enjoy the way that Marty Cordero, who's the general manager for the Omaha Storm Chasers, when he first came in and I sat down and had a meeting with him about advertising, he said, Dan, my goal as general manager is to make sure that when you come to a Storm Chasers game, you spend less than you do at the movie theaters. Because if I can do that, if I can bring my price point down low enough, I'll get people in the gates. One of the reasons why they didn't go downtown to TD Ameritrade Stadium was because the city wanted $8 for parking. Well, Marty said, well, what's the point in that when my ticket prices are $6? And it's cheaper to get into a Storm Chasers game in that absolutely gorgeous stadium out on 370 than it is to get into some dirt track races. And that's ridiculous.
It is. And, I think it's the promoting that has to change a little bit. And I firmly believe, I'm an old country kid, and it don't take many numbers to figure out, if you charge 500 people $10 a piece to get in, what's that? $5,000.
Yep.
You let that same group in there and you get 5,000 people in there for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Them 500 people are going to spend $10 a piece. Them 5,000 people are going to spend that $10 that you didn't charge them to get in there. How much is 5,000 times 10?
50,000.
Thank you.
And they're probably going to spend $20 because
they're going to have that extra money to go to the concession stands and keep going back. Exactly.
Right.
It's the reason why when I go to like these concerts, and I think I paid $235 to go see the Rolling Stones a couple of years ago. For me and my dad to go watch the Rolling Stones play, I didn't drink. I'd spent all my money on the ticket to get in the door. I didn't buy a concert T-shirt. I didn't buy food there. I didn't do anything. But when I go see these smaller bands at Sokol Auditorium and I pay $5 to get in the gate, I'm spending $200 in booze.
Well, there's truth to that, you know. I mean,
exactly.
And people love things that are free. Every time they've had free races out there at I-80, them grandstands are packed. Mm-hmm. The first time they did it, they had to turn people away. You know, it just makes sense to me, you know, especially if you started the season, let them all in for nothing. Then when they start getting addicted and coming, we'll charge them a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Just a couple dollars.
Crawford County this week just dropped their, actually last Friday, just dropped their ticket prices by $2, and it showed in the stands. People began to realize it and noticed it, and it showed. Well, you know, $2 isn't much, but it's something I'll take, and I'll be glad to come back to more and more. Yeah. And they're exploring dropping it even a little bit more just to help out.
Well, like I said, I'm an old country boy, and them empty seats, you need butts in them seats to make money.
Yeah, absolutely. Dennis Cook, preaching the truth. You got anything else?
No. I'm just over here looking at gentle Ben.
Right. I'm going to try to get you out of here before he starts hassling you about Camber Castor again, okay?
Yeah. He's only going to get so much information anyway.
All right, Dennis, we appreciate you joining us. And one more time, that was Dennis Cook, driver of the number 45 Home Pride Motorsports B-Mod at Shelby County Speedway on Saturday nights and I-80 Speedway on Sunday nights. You can catch him next Sunday, not this coming Sunday, but next Sunday. He will be, actually next Friday. No, it will be next Sunday. I was thinking maybe he was going to be there for the Alphabet Soup Race, but it won't be. He'll be there next Sunday, the 29th, for the June Jamboree and the Makeup Charlotte Clark Memorial. $1,200 to win for A-Mods, $600 to win for B-Mods, and then non-sanctioned Pro-Ams stock cars get $1,030 to win. Green flag at $555.
I tell you what, the one thing about Dennis Cook, if you've never met this guy, and not so much in here in the studio, but in the race shop, you know, and he's kind of laughed, and we've talked about this. He'd almost come off as either egotistical or cocky, but he's not. I mean, you get to know the guy.
He's got the stats to back it up.
He's got the stats to back it up.
Any swagger that he walks is well justified.
Well justified, well earned. But here's a guy, if you show him a little bit of respect, he'll take the shirt off his back for, I don't know how many times he's come over to my house and helped me look at something when he should have been doing something on his own car.
Yeah.
Now, you know, with him being in the championship run, I expect that from him all the time?
It's not going
to happen.
It was so funny. In between recording the Slingin Dirt and the front stretch interview, you were drilling him for any kind of setups, and he was just giving you nuggets.
Just
enough to kind of wet your whistle, but he wasn't giving you a full glass of water.
What kind of shocks are you using? Yeah. Well, I'm using the 7-inch up front. Well, no, I was looking for valving and rebounding and stuff like that. But, you know, that's, you know, he's a good-natured person. Now, if I was to actually go over to his shop, he would show me his shocks and stuff like that.
He is the epitome of what we talked about last week. Don't go on social media and bitch about your problems. Do something about it.
Right.
He had a problem with Steve Kaczynski. Well, he didn't really have a problem. He had an idea for Steve Kaczynski. He went to him at the Ward's banquet and said, do a free admission night or let people into the grandstands for free. And they did. They tried it the next year, and it was a big success. He didn't go on social media and say, you know, I-80 Speedway just racks in all the dollars and charges everybody, and they've got gold bullion coming out their ears. He went right to the man and said, here's my idea. And I tell you what, I did the exact same thing at Crawford County last Friday night. I stole an idea from Joe Kaczynski, which I actually needed to talk to him about it, but I forgot. They do the red flag special there at I-80. When there's a red flag out, it's discounted beer prices. So I went into the concession stands and I said, hey guys, what do you think about trying this out? I'm not kidding you. 25 minutes later, I got a text message from the girl that runs the beer stands. We're doing it. Great idea. Let's do it. I'm like, wow, how fast things move when you
try to work with the track instead of bitching at them on the internet.
Exactly. It's amazing.
And when we did the Slingin Dirt, it came out last week, and you couldn't have written a scenario like this. I-80 Speedway, Steve Kaziski, this guy works his butt off to give us a track to work on each and every night, track surface. The water truck broke. Well, is that Steve's fault? No, stuff's mechanical, it breaks. So we were left with a dry, slick, dusty track. A lot of us drivers, we liked the surface, but the dust that ensued was just overbearing. But instead of complaining about it and getting up in people's faces and screaming at people or going on Facebook or Twitter or MySpace or whatever, we just simply pulled off. We had the choice. Either we could race the track or we could pull off and save our equipment. Now, me and some other drivers, we pulled off, and that's fine. The tracks don't mind if you do that. The one thing that they do like that we did is we didn't go out there and we didn't attack the tracks. I understand that Justin, last Friday night, the track was getting to be pretty dusty again, and he went out there and he laid some water down early on in the heat races. Yeah. You're telling me before we went to record?
I'd never seen anybody do it, but I wondered if anybody had ever tried to do it before. It was very apparent during hot laps that it was going to be a dry track. It was doing the exact same thing it was doing a couple of weeks prior to that when we had that real dusty track. And so to combat it, Justin Reitz went out there and laid, and I thought it was really curious where he laid the water. He didn't lay it in the low on the first groove. He laid it in the second groove, a full car
almost
width,
right in the middle
groove. Yeah, exactly right in the middle. And then they sent the stock cars around several times to kind of pack it in a little bit, and then we started racing again. And then they did a really good job of moving the cars up the track. And before I knew it, that was the highest I'd seen the groove get all year long.
And the track wasn't super dusty or nothing.
It had its dusty spots, but it was much better because he went and laid that water down.
Great racing action.
It was awesome racing action.
But you know what? We didn't see anybody, blowing up Facebook or whatnot. That just goes to show that if you work with the tracks, look what Justin did. He went out there and he tried to rectify the situation. These guys don't want, dusty Dust Bowl tracks. Yeah. Steve Kaziski was out there with one, maybe two different water trucks. He was doing his best. There's nothing you can do. If equipment breaks down, So, but, kudos to everybody for not going out there. Like I said, last week, you and I actually both said it. Embrace your tracks, support your tracks and give thanks for what little bit you got. So I want to say thanks to Dennis Cook of Cooker Chassis.
Absolutely.
Coming on in. And
I can't say enough. You don't see that nice of a guy on the surface. I think he does that on purpose. He's got kind of a gruff look and a gruff posture. But once because you joked about it. I know you were joking, but I know you also weren't joking. He is an intimidating guy when you first walk up to him. And I was scared the first time I walked up to him alone. I saw him in the pits. I can't even remember where, but I recognized him, but didn't quite recognize him because he shaved his massive
beard,
mountain man beard off. I mean, this guy can grow a beard like it's nobody's business.
That is if he was to ever get in that beard contest in Omaha, hands down, he's winning it. Because that is something that you see out of a spook movie. I think Freddy Krueger and Jason would run from that.
But he's the ones you get to talk to him. I love the sound of his voice too. He's just got that real like molasses kind of. It rolls off. He's such a nice guy. If you ever get a chance, go talk to him. Spend a little time with him. He'll educate you.
There's one thing, and he laughed about this. I was like, Dennis, I know you're always in the mood to think or talk about something when you do one little thing. And he goes, "What's that?" I go, you start taking your fingers and you're rubbing your fingers over that Fu Manchu as you're listening, as you're making your...
He was braiding it during one of your questions. You were asking for so long, he started braiding the thing. I'm just kidding. I'm giving you
If a redneck could go to North Omaha, there was a guy right there. He's got dreads in his beard.
All right. I think that does it for us for the Slingin Dirt. We appreciate you joining us. We'll have one again next week. Do you got any idea what we're going to talk about?
Not yet.
Okay. We'll work on it. We'll be back next week to do it all again.